Hey, what's up everyone, and welcome to the School of Personal Finance. So this past May marks the 20-year anniversary of my college graduation, and I was up in bed the other night, I couldn't fall asleep, and I was thinking back about all the different jobs that I've had that have led me to this point. And not just the jobs, but the side hustles, the businesses that I tried to start and that I failed at. And as I'm thinking about all these things, I thought it'd be a good idea to make a video and share with you my journey and my experiences and the business lessons that I've learned, along with the life lessons and everything that has molded me into the person that you see sitting before you today. So I think that you're gonna find this useful. Let's get to it. So to my surprise, when I went back all the way to high school and I had my first job, there were 11 total either jobs or side hustles or businesses that I tried to start that I'm going to touch upon today. I'm going to go through them pretty quickly, but what I want you to get out of each one was the big life lesson, the big experience that I walked away from that has helped mold me into the person that I am today. So the first one that I'm going to talk about was when I was in high school. My father, who worked for IBM his entire career, he was only in his mid-40s at this point, he was offered an early retirement and he decided to buy a video store. So he purchased a video store. This was actually right before like Blockbuster Video came out, and I worked there during high school. And this was the perfect high school job. I worked there with one of my best friends, shout out to Mike Hall, and we were like the two dudes in Clerks. If you ever saw the movie Clerks, if you haven't, you definitely should. But we were like those two guys hanging out in the video store, watching movies, just having a good time. And it was a great experience. But there were some big things, thinking back on it, that really did shape the rest of my life. I mean, the first one was that I respected that my father actually left a very secure, high-paying job to take a chance and to start his own business and to be around more for his family. That was a big move for him when I think about it, looking back. A big life lesson that I learned from working in the video store from my parents is that the way that you treat people, your customers, it means everything. When you sell something, when you're a service provider, when you offer a product that's like a commodity, the differentiator is you. So if you have great customer service, if you genuinely listen to people and care about people, and they enjoy coming in to see you, you build loyalty. They could have gone to any video store, but people used to come in and just shoot the breeze with my parents. And my parents always treated everybody with respect. So I learned that from a very young age, that if you're very good to your clients, who are the lifeblood of your business, then they will be good to you. That was a very important life lesson, and it's not the only time that I learned it, but it was the first time. And then my second job, it was actually an internship while I was in college, and it was with a company called Beneficial Finance. And now they're actually not even in existence anymore, but what they did was they gave very high interest rate loans to people who had very bad credit. So I learned a lot at this job. I learned how to read pay stubs, I learned how to read tax returns, I took loan applications, and then I got to see what factors were involved with management actually making a decision if they wanted to give this person a loan or not. Looking back, I mean, my biggest takeaway and my life lesson from this internship was, once again, people who are not financially literate, it's very hard for them to get out of the hole that they put themselves into. I mean, these people, just to make the interest payments on these loans, the rates were like in the 20s. It was very hard for them, and they would use these loans for silly purchases, like to buy a nice car or something. And they struggled month to month. So they had no wiggle room. If they were to lose their job or if something were to happen, they were going to default on these loans. And eventually, once the Great Recession hit, that's exactly what happened, and that company went out of business. And then my third job that I want to quickly touch upon was actually my first job out of college. And I remember it very clearly. It was at a company called Payne Weber. They're in Weehawken, New Jersey, which is right across the river from downtown Manhattan. And I was living in New York at the time, about 45 minutes north of the city. So the commute there was like an hour and a half, but I didn't care. So Payne Weber was a very well-known financial institution, and I was excited to have a job there out of college. I got a good starting salary, which back then, I mean, this is the year 2000, I think it was like $45,000 or something. But the atmosphere there, the building, everything, it looked awesome. I remember bringing my girlfriend at the time, who is now my wife, to go check it out. She was jealous. She's like, wow, this is awesome. And I was so excited. And then I remember actually starting working there, and there was nothing what I thought it was going to be. I would spend my entire day looking through these brokerage applications and making sure that people signed in the right spot. I would literally have like 1,000 of them a day that I would just have to go through and make sure the signatures are correct. And I couldn't take it, especially with the very long commute. So I didn't last there very long. But my life lesson from that one was that, if you're not happy make a change. Don't feel bad about it. Don't be embarrassed. Don't worry about what other people think. Because I was worried at the time. I was like, you know what? I was so excited to get this job. I told all my friends from college. Everybody was impressed that I got a job at Payne Webber right out of college. And here I was a few months later, and I was going to leave it. And I felt pretty guilty inside. But at the end of the day, you have to do what's right for you. So don't worry about what other people think. It doesn't matter. All right, so number 4, after I left Payne Webber, I got a job at a commodities trading company. And they used to trade precious metals, and they actually delivered precious metals and bought and sold it throughout the world. So it was a pretty interesting company, and they were very successful. I got a job in the accounting department. So in the accounting department, it was very high stress. Maybe there was like 15 to 20 people in the accounting department, all sitting, in an open concept floor, little cubicles. So we're all looking at each other all day. And my biggest takeaway here, I didn't last very long at this job. I was not happy. But I wasn't the only one that wasn't happy. Nobody was happy around me. Everybody seemed so stressed out. And another thing that I hated about this place was that it was like the walk of shame when you left to go home. So again, I'm in my young 20s at the time. If I were to leave at like 6 o'clock at night, and this is a salary position, so it's not like you get paid overtime or anything, but if I were to leave at like 6:30 at night, it was like everybody would look at me like, where the hell is this kid going? These people worked till like seriously like 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. And if you were leaving earlier than that, it was like the walk of shame. So I wasn't thrilled there. I really didn't like what I was doing, but I did have ambitions to get my way over to the trading floor. But after being there for about a year or so, I learned it just wasn't going to happen. So I pulled the plug on that one as well and went on to do something different. But my big takeaway from that place and life lesson was that being miserable at work, it sucks. I wouldn't have been able to do it for an extended period of time unless something changed. And I just didn't love the atmosphere there. Even the traders there who were making big money, they all seemed miserable all the time too. They were angry, they walked around with attitudes. I really didn't like it at all. And I learned pretty quickly I wasn't gonna live the rest of my life. Even if it meant making a big income, I wasn't gonna be miserable the rest of my life. All right, so now number 5 was probably my favorite out of all the things I've ever done. And that was I went down to Wall Street and I traded stocks. So now I went down there for a firm where it's basically like a day trading firm. They would fund your account and you would go in there and trade for the company account. And it was very cool. And I took to it right away. I loved it. And this was back in the .com bubble. So when I first started, people were making so much money. It was like a huge party. They used to bring in catered lunches. It was very cool. And I started doing very well in the beginning. But when you're trading their money, you only get a small percentage of what you make. So it wasn't like I was making a ton of money, but I would have some very big up days. But then, volatility hit the market. Things stopped going up 100 points a day. I started to have some bad days. I started to lose some money. Things started getting a little bit shaky. And, I remember very vividly, like I would have a full month where I wouldn't make any money. And just the train ride back and forth to the city. I remember sitting on the train going home thinking, wow, I just basically worked this whole month without making any money. And it sucks. I learned pretty quickly that I wasn't gonna be able to keep that up and do it, in a long-term scale. And then September 11th happened. So that actually ended up being my last day trading stocks in New York City. It was just the perfect reason for me to not go back at that point. So, but it was a great experience for me and I did love it. It just wasn't a long-term gig for me, but I had a good time while it lasted. So now number 6, while I was trading stocks down in the city, I got a job at a business college in the evenings doing financial aid for the students. And now this was another great learning experience because I would have parents come in with their kids, sit down, and we would go through to see like what grants were available, to apply for financial aid, fill out the FAFSA form. So I learned a lot doing this. I was also looking at tax returns and talking to people about their finances. So this was an interesting job. I was tired because I was doing it at night after trading and losing money all day in the stock market, but it was really, it was a good job for me. And it made me realize, the light bulb went off, that I really enjoy helping people with their money and that this was something that I wanted to do longer term. So the thing that I walked away with from that job was that I think I was meant to actually help people one-on-one, sit down with them, go through their finances and try to help them with their money. And then my 7th job, after I stopped trading stocks, I got a job at Wachovia Bank. So I had a friend of the family who worked there and she got me an interview. I was hired and I started working in one of the local branches. And I really enjoyed this job. So Wachovia was a little different than the other banks, whereas they would have you do a little bit of everything. So I was opening like business checking accounts, personal checking accounts. I was doing home equity lines of credit, mortgages, business loans, and I was also able to do investments. So I got to really learn about all three of those things, and everything that went on in the bank, I kind of had my hands in, which was pretty cool. And not only that, but I formed great relationships in the banks. So working with the tellers, with the branch manager, you really felt like you were part of a team. And I had a great boss at that time. But the thing that I liked the most about it was that it was salary plus commission. So this was my first taste of having like an incentive-based job where I got a base salary, but then depending on how I performed throughout the month, I was able to earn commission on top of that. And I was making a good amount of money for being in my mid-20s. And back to the life lesson that I learned at my first job in the video store, this really was true at the bank. And that's that customer service means everything. People will be so loyal to you if you just treat them like a human being and you're compassionate and you look out for their best interests and you're responsible and reliable. They will follow you wherever you go. The downside with the bank was that I was working a lot because I would stay after, make phone calls. I was trying to make as much money as I can. So I was working 6 days a week, nights, and I wasn't home that much. And then when we had our first child in 2007, then I wanted to be home a little bit more. So it was tough. It was tough to find that work-life balance at that point. And then 2009 happened. And that's when everything changed overnight. So Wachovia basically declared bankruptcy. Wells Fargo came in and took them over, and my whole job description changed. Wells Fargo wasn't run the same way that Wachovia was. All of a sudden, I didn't have an opportunity to make nearly as much money as I was making, and it was time to leave. It was time to find a new opportunity. But my biggest life lesson was that the only constant is change. You never know what could happen. Things could change overnight. So never feel too comfortable in your position with the income that you're making, because you just don't know what could happen, especially when it comes to corporations. It's just completely out of your control. Another big life lesson that I learned while I was working in the bank was that the wealthiest clients, the people who had the money, they were entrepreneurs, they started their own businesses, or they were real estate investors, or they were both, which a lot of people were. So that always was burned in my brain, that the people that had the big bucks, they were business owners and they owned a lot of property. All right, so then number 8, I was looking for something with more flexibility, with more freedom, but where I had unlimited income potential. This is where I found, the happy place. I wanted ultimate happiness, ultimate flexibility, ultimate freedom, and the opportunity to make a very big income. But it's hard to find that kind of job. I've been looking for it my entire life. But with MetLife, I kind of had that opportunity. I was a financial advisor, and I was able to really build my business the way that I saw fit. I was able to go after clients, do financial planning, do investments, sell insurance, and as long as I was generating revenue, then my boss, management, they really left me alone. They allowed me to grow my business the way that I saw fit, and I really appreciated that. But it was a struggle, and I had to hustle my butt off, because walking in, you're starting from the ground up. So I had to run around trying to get clients and trying to grow a book of business. But there were some very important lessons that I learned, very early in that job. And the first one was that just showing up and being respectful to your coworkers, to management, being coachable, it led to opportunities. When things came up, they thought of me because they knew that I was hardworking, that I wasn't going to embarrass them if they sent me on a call to go meet somebody, that I was going to show up and that I was going to do my best to help whoever it was that they were putting me in front of. So a lot of opportunities came my way. So I had a good run there for the next 6 years or so where I was really happy. I had a great boss, I had flexibility, I was making a good income, I was growing my business, but then the inevitable, things change, and they had a management change. Then they started consolidating departments inside of the company. They started trying to cut costs. And the next thing you knew, I was in a situation that I really wasn't thrilled with. And it wasn't by my own doing. It was the company. It was the mergers, the acquisitions, the changes. And just one after the other, a few years I hung in there, and then I found myself in a situation that I was just really miserable. So in 2018, I decided to leave that position, and I was able to sell a part of the book that I had built. So that enabled me to take this leap of faith and to go do something completely different and to go in a different direction. And through all of this, all of the changes that I've made, I was always very smart with saving and investing money. So even at MetLife, before I left, like in 2015, I believe it was, I started investing in real estate. And that's a whole nother story and a whole different risk and chance and leap of faith that I took at that time. So I started buying houses in all different parts of the country trying to generate an income, a passive income, by owning these rental properties. So leaving MetLife, my biggest lesson learned was, again, that you don't control anything. The company controls what's going to happen to you. A lot of things, they're just out of your control, and there's nothing you could really do about it. No matter how secure you feel, things change, and you better be prepared for it for when it happens. And what I ended up doing was I started an Amazon business with my wife. So my wife, who also has a clothing business, I was helping her with the clothing business, and then we took a run at Amazon FBA. And that was a whole nother experience in itself. It was pretty crazy. We started selling a calendar on Amazon, we were selling earrings, selling scarves, and we were actually doing really well in the beginning. The calendar was a big hit. We were buying them from China and having them imported here, and we were making a lot of money on the calendars. But again, like all good things, like you just don't know what's gonna happen to derail you. And what ended up happening was somebody in China actually hijacked our listing, where they were able to get their hands on a ton of our calendars. I don't know if it was from the manufacturer, and they started selling them for like a quarter of the price that we were selling them for. You know, it just smacked me in my face that you can never feel comfortable. You know, the competition on there is cutthroat, but overall, it was a great experience. And all of this all led me here to where you see me today with the School of Personal Finance. So my passion has always been about teaching people about finance and helping people with their money. So I always wanted to start a YouTube channel, and I said, you know what, screw it. I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna start making videos, and I'm very happy that I did. I ultimately decided that I would just start my own financial planning business, so I was able to do the YouTube channel and help people with their money at the same time. So all these things throughout my whole life, they've led me to, I believe, exactly where I'm supposed to be, which is sitting in front of this camera making a YouTube video for you today. But you know, I can't stress enough how important it was that all along the way I was good with my money. I was saving money, I was investing money, because you never know what's going to happen. Even when I got pay increases, I was always maxing out my 401k. I was always putting some money aside for that day when I might want to make a big change or do something. I'm a risk taker by nature. I like to go for it. You only live this life one time, so don't get stuck in the rut and do a job that you're just not happy with, that you know you're punching the clock and you're looking for the day to end. It's not the way to live. We only get one shot. Make it count. Don't be afraid to do stuff. I never thought that I'd be sitting in front of a camera like this. I actually don't even like public speaking, and I'm an introvert, you know, like networking, things like that. Those are not my things. I am not good at those things, but I feel pretty comfortable sitting in front of the camera making these videos, and I enjoy doing it. So I hope that these life lessons, that they helped you, that you found it useful. If you've not yet already, please subscribe to this channel. Hit that like button if you enjoyed this video. This one was a little bit different than the ones that I've done in the past, a little bit more personal, so I hope you got something out of it. Please let me know down below if you did like this video in the comments section, and I will see you again next week, next Friday, for my next video. Thanks a lot.